Well, let's get into our picks for this week. The 23rd ranked LSU Fighting Tigers, who tumbled quite a bit, are traveling to Missouri to face Eli Drinkwitz.
You can't mispronounce his name this week. You can't.
His empire. And, I know we use the Darth Vader music for Eli Drinkwitz, but I'm saying that LSU is going to find a way to get things together. And you know what? There's another part to the story of Star Wars. It's not just Darth Vader. It's also those people the rebellion.
The rebellion.
Star Wars is a redemption story, and we're going to see it this Saturday. At least I'm hoping, or I may not make the show next week.
I don't blame you.
I'm going with LSU. How about you, Darren?
Well, I tell you, I'm really back and forth on this one. There are two things that from both sides give me pause or scare me a little bit if I'm a fan of either team. Number one, if you're an LSU fan, you can't ignore how, just you talking about nothing more than a strainer that water ran straight through. That's what, from the word go, that's what the LSU defense looked like. You allow 700 yards of total offense. You have to own up to how bad your defense is. So to me, that really, just off of that one thing, that gives Missouri kind of the edge. But then at the same time, even though Missouri's had a good defense this year, they haven't faced Jaden Daniels. They haven't faced somebody that can do what he does and that can make you pay in so many different ways. I think he's going to be the difference. I'm going to go with LSU. I was really back and forth on this one all the last couple of days. Just really, really concerned me about the defense. But I think he makes the difference. I think even though Missouri is having a good year, they are 5-0. We like what Eli Drinkwitz is doing. I think Jaden Daniels can put this team on his back. Diggs at running back can have a really, really nice game, and those two guys can will this team to victory against a Missouri. So I'm going to go with LSU. I debated it. I'm not going to lie.
A huge matchup on Saturday, the Red River rivalry. The Oklahoma Sooners and the Texas Longhorns at the Cotton Bowl. Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, will be in attendance at this game. This is a huge game for both programs. Texas ranked third and favored. Oklahoma rebounding very well this year. Brent Venables has them going in the right direction. They're ranked 12th. This is such a huge game for so many different reasons, Darren. Recruiting, all the history that's involved here, both teams now moving into the SEC. When I look at this game, Darren, I'm going to go ahead and pick first. I'm going with the Sooners. I'm going to let's do it. Let's do it. Boomer Sooner. I think that Venables is going to press the right buttons. I think Dylan Gabriel is going to have a monster game, and Texas is going to find the pressure of being favored a little too much to handle. And OU is going to exploit that and come out with a big, big win.
I'll make it short and simple. I am in complete and total agreement. Boomer Sooner. I think Dylan Gabriel has the game of his life. 15 TDs, 2 interceptions so far this season. I think we see that Dylan Gabriel from the word go. This is an Oklahoma underdog win. This is an Oklahoma victory. I'll say it again.
Darren, you almost made me fall on my seat when you said 15 TDs. I thought you were getting ready to say Dylan Gabriel, 15 TDs in this game.
If I call that and it happens, now that's something.
I think even Oklahoma fans may call you out on that one.
Whoa, pump the brakes. Pump the brakes.
The 11th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide travels to College Station to face the Texas A&M Aggies, who are really having a good year, except for that one bad game in Miami, they
Mm-hmm.
seem to have things going in a very good good positive direction. I think that's about the third time I've said the word direction in this podcast. I I need to have a thesaurus. A thesaurus. A thesaurus nearby. Yes.
A
Anyway.
thesaurus. That's my new favorite word, just for the record.
Darren, who do you like in this one?
This is another one that I've really had some difficulty with. To me, the obvious answer is Alabama, but you have to at least take a step back and take a moment to say, okay, but it is on the road. And Alabama has looked like a little bit of a different team this year than they would in the past. I really want to buy into everything that A&M is doing. But, man, it's just like Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. They've made me do it one too many times in the past. And for that, I'm a little bit afraid of them. Even with it being a home game, I'm still going to go with Alabama on this one. Who you got?
One of the reasons Bobby Petrino was hired was to help A&M, particularly in the SEC. Right now, the SEC West is wide open. A&M can get in the driver's seat with a victory over Alabama. I think they're going to do it. I think the Aggies pull out a win here.
Wow. That's a great call.
Speaking of great calls.
You're not talking about the hiring of Clark Lee.
The Vanderbilt Commodores travel down to Gainesville to face the favored Florida Gators, unranked Florida Gators, but favored nonetheless, coming off of their defeat in Lexington. Darren, I want to support you and your team. I'm gonna go with the UNLV Gators. I mean the Florida Gators.
They might as well be. Does it really matter? I mean, it's just semantics which team it is at this point, and it just no hurt feelings, because I agree with you. So no hard feelings. You talking about the shock of all shocks. If Vanderbilt I know Florida is not the Florida we're used to in the past, but there's just not enough there this year. And this unfortunately is going to be a Florida win, and it's just going to add to the disappointment of this season for Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt fans.
The Kentucky Wildcats, coming off of their big win over Florida, travel to Athens. I think Kentucky is ranked 20th now to face the number 1 ranked and undefeated Georgia Bulldogs. Granted, they looked shaky at times. I don't think they're going to go into this game taking anything for granted. I think Kirby Smart's going to have them fired up, ready to play. Mark Stoops is going to have his guys fired up, ready to play. But at the end of the day, I think that Georgia's going to have too much for Kentucky to overcome, and the Bulldogs win.
I'm in complete agreement. One of the things that made last week happen for Kentucky was the rushing game. When you have one player, Ray Davis, that has 280 yards, you better win that game. But the other side of that coin is when you look at their passing offense, it still was not there. We have not seen what we expected from their passing offense this year. I think that's going to be an issue. Florida showed a lot of lack of discipline that I don't think Georgia will show, even though this is not the same Georgia we're accustomed to over the last 2 seasons. They're going to be more disciplined than what Florida showed in dealing with a lot of the rush attack and the outside zones and the counter traps and plays like that. Georgia is going to deal with that much more effectively. It would be an incredible story. I think it would have a much higher likelihood if it was in Lexington instead of in Athens. But I agree completely. This is definitely a Georgia win.
And that takes us to the Arkansas Razorbacks traveling to Oxford to face the 16th ranked and favored Ole Miss Rebels, coming off of an incredible offensive performance against LSU, a big win last week. Arkansas is stumbling somewhat. Ole Miss, can they keep the momentum going, Darren? Who you have in this one?
I think Ole Miss definitely keeps the momentum going. As much as you'd like to see something positive happen for Sam Pittman at this point, That's still a possibility. It's not the first time they've lost 3 or 4 games in a row in his head coaching time and tenure, and then they turned it around and ended up having a decent season. So that's still a possibility, but I don't think the turnaround starts this week. They're already talking about, even in his press conference on Monday, he's talking about making changes on the offensive line, looking at some different things offensively with the scheme. And when you start doing that kind of stuff, it may have a long-term benefit, but the short term, it could create some confusion and some difficulty that you're not already having it, and make things a little bit worse before they get better. So I think this is an Ole Miss win. Who you think wins this one?
I agree with you, Darren. Ole Miss. So remember to join our Brew and Shavers Pick'em. Go to CBS Sports, College Football Pick'em. Look for Brew and Shavers Pick'em, and then our password is Pick'em. That's PICKEM 1234 exclamation point.
And the link is also down below in the comments. And if you're listening to this audio in the show notes and show description, there will be a link there as well. You can just click on the link, go right to it, and use that password.